If you have an item in mind and are asked to recognize it in comparison to a new image or the foil, people have a harder time discriminating between similar foils in memory than they are at discriminating between dissimilar foils in memory. This is true across different task types as well as across different stimuli sets of varying levels of complexity. For instance, in the case of simple low-level features such as color, comparing this target with this foil in memory will be very difficult because they are so similar to each other. Observers will often mistakenly believe they saw this item. On the other hand, however, when comparing this target with this dissimilar item, it suddenly becomes a very easy task. This has also been found for more complex high-level stimuli such as scenes. One example of this was in Brady et al. In 2010, who found that people are much worse when comparing exemplars of the same category in memory compared to scenes that are cross categories. People have been debating why we are worse at discriminating between similar items, perhaps since the first studies on false memory came out at the beginning of the 20th century. Many theories of memory make very different and even often contradictory predictions as to why people are worse at processing similar items. Much of the current research, furthermore, on the topic is very qualitative, with few theories actually offering a complete model by which to explain this conundrum. However, recently, in lower-level domains, this has been made very quantitative. Specifically, Schill et al. In 2018 used a triad task in order to measure how similarity scales with distance measured in terms of degrees along the color wheel. They asked participants to determine which of two test colors was more similar to a target color. The authors found that with a fixed 30-degree distance between two color choices, participants were more accurate at determining which color is closer to the target when the two colors were nearby in color space to the target compared when they were far away in color space to the target. This can be visualized here, where the psychological distance of how we represent color is not linear as a function of the distance between colors as measured by degree along the response wheel. Inverting this function, we see that the average familiarity between pairs of stimuli is roughly exponential as a function of distance along the stimulus wheel. These exponential functions have been quantified in both of the lower level stimulus spaces of color and orientation, but the question remains, what is the actual origin of these similarity functions? Well, this exponential similarity function is consistent with models of neural population overlap and population coding. In fact, overlap in neural codes also predicts an exponential function with all faraway colors being equally similar. This is shown in the example here, as all faraway colors share no neurons with this target color of purple. So while we can't record directly from the visual system itself, we can look at some pretty good models of the visual system in the form of deep convolutional neural nets, or CNNs. For example, certain hierarchical neural nets have been shown to mimic the object representations of the human ventral stream. We found that the same exponential similarity function appears in a CNN model for low-level features such as color. For instance, looking just at this top fully connected layer of the CNN, ResNet 18, for example, just measuring the cosine similarity of the readout of these three different colors closely mimics the empirically measured human similarity function. So we've seen that similarity can be quantified in lower level domains like color. Next, we will see how similarity impacts memory performance using TCC. And then finally, we will also talk about how we can think about this in more complex stimulus spaces such as scenes. The model we are using is the Target Confusability Competition Model, or TCC, which simply combines this similarity metric with signal detection theory in order to predict memory based off of noisy representations for low-level stimuli such as color and orientation. We've already seen that similarity is exponential in psychologically scaled spaces, but that changes slightly when thinking about memory. The TCC model is really about how to take the similarity function and model complex tasks such as continuous report. But deep down, the model is really just saying that similarity is, at least for low-level stimuli, a measure of memory confusability. So in simple tasks, like a two alternative force choice task, TCC predicts that there is an approximately linear relationship between memory performance, which can be measured by signal detection theory's D prime, as a function of the similarity of the foil to the target in memory for low-level feature domains. The question of the current project is, can the same predictions be made for more realistic stimuli? More specifically, can we make quantitative predictions about how well people can distinguish real scenes from similar foils in memory, either based off of human similarity or based off of CNNs? Clearly, similarity and memory confusability for scenes will be very complex and dependent on semantics, knowledge, functions, and visual overlap. So in order to simplify this question, we decided to deal with changes that were more local or staying within the same category. So to do this, we built a new continuous scene database by extracting temporally evenly spaced frames from video shot from drones. In total, this resulted in a new database that consisted of 100 unique categories, each containing 5 temporally continuous scenes, images. Image 1 of each category was always paired with the 4 other images in the category. We also paired the exemplar image with an image from a different category in order to provide a maximum dissimilar comparison for observers to use to gauge the similarity of within category images. So then in a pairwise similarity task, we presented 100 participants with 2 images at a time and asked them to rate their similarity on a continuous scale. This is an example of a within category trial, and this is an example of a cross-category trial. Here's a visualization of the similarity task ratings by humans, showing each of the 100 categories on the y-axis as a function of the similarity ratings for each within category image. The x-axis here also represents time difference in drone footage. Most of the categories show a relatively evenly spaced similarity relationship, with yellow being most similar to blue being dissimilar. This is an example of just a category here that shows a nice uniform variance in between images. Here's another way of looking at the data. So in image 1 was paired with itself for the next frame taken from the drone video. Participants rated those as most similar, and the wider distributions here, when the first and fifth images were judged, captures the variance in within category similarity in the database. So we've seen that in simple stimuli, similarity is straightforward and well captured by both humans and CNNs, and can be used to predict memory in a very straightforward way. Now in scenes, we are testing whether, at least for the small scale local changes in this new database we made, the same might be true. We can do this by looking at human similarity ratings and also by asking again about the similarity in the CNN. How might humans and CNNs differ in predicting memory for scenes? Well, on the one hand, we know that scene similarity is likely very complex and not simply just a combination of low-level features. Therefore, people's ratings might contain unique information that predicts memory confusability above and beyond that of CNNs. On the other hand, similarity is not well defined for complex scenes with many different dimensions, and CNNs do capture some conceptual information and not just basic features, since they are trained to do more complex tasks like categorization. So to test this, we conducted an independent memory experiment on Prolific. We had 200 participants view 100 categorically distinct target images. They subsequently did a 2 alternative first choice memory test, where they were presented with the target image that they saw previously, as well as a similar foil from the same category. Observers were tasked to click on the image that they had seen previously. This graph depicts memory performance as measured by D prime as a function of the similarity ratings between pairs of images in the perceptual task. Each X represents a category. We find that memory confusability for scenes is linearly predicted by independent perceptual similarity ratings, with higher similarity correlating with more confusable memory, which is consistent with results for low-level features such as color. And while this correlation isn't that high, keep in mind that our memory measure here is relatively noisy since we are doing it per category. So actually, the human similarity ratings explain almost 50% of the explainable variance in memory performance. So we found that human similarity ratings do a reasonably good job at predicting memory performance. What about CNNs? Well, we find that, like human similarity ratings, memory confusability for scenes is linearly predicted by the CNN, and the CNN actually did a slightly better job at predicting human memory than the human similarity judgments. So in summary, both human similarity ratings and the CNN did a pretty good job at predicting memory confusability for scenes, which is especially impressive for the CNN. However, both humans and the CNN missed a lot of potential variance, which may point to the complex concept of similarity in real scenes, even for these relatively continuous changes to similar scenes. For instance, people likely have genuine heterogeneity in conceptual structures. Some people might rely more on function, which seems to be what drives scene categorization. Alternatively, people's attention might be drawn to different regions based off of their prior history with certain scenes, and so on and so forth. In this project, we found that both the CNN and human similarity ratings of a new continuous scene database can predict memory performance. We conclude that the TCC model provides now a straightforward way to quantify similarity in both low-level and high-level domains, and to use that information to accurately predict memory for highly confusable items, with evidence coming from both humans and CNNs. In the future, we'd like to investigate further the underlying cause of the rest of the unexplained variance. Secondly, we know that humans might be using different internal metrics by which to judge similarity. Thus, future studies can incorporate more specific instructions to ask participants just to judge based off of perceptual or conceptual similarity metrics. Furthermore, by comparing these ratings to those of different CNNs, we can assess their accessibility to different kinds of internal metrics. And in turn, we can look at when humans most efficiently use certain similarity metrics over others, and then can use that information to more accurately model those internal states in CNNs. I'd like to thank Tim Brady and the Brady Lab, as well as Viola and her lab for their feedback. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out via my email below. Thanks for watching my virtual talk, and enjoy the rest of the conference.